we're going to dive into what is it that we do and why is it so different from any other list companies out there that are providing personal injury leads. So Annie Brown is the founder and CEO of this company. She started it over 24 years ago. And today we're going to hear directly from her what is this business model about and what do we do to help chiropractors, physical therapists, and PI attorneys. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you, Mariani. Thank you. So, yeah, we are a very different business model than um, maybe the average business is out there. Um, it's like, it's not like driving up to McDonald's and asking for something or going into Nordstrom's and getting something, or I don't know what else in the service industry. Like, I don't know, calling your insurance company to get health coverage and they'll have a plan, different plans and such. So it's a little different how this company operates, and there's a reason why. Um, one first main reason is the business model that I've developed has to do with how you reach out to people that have been in car accidents. So the first thing is we provide names and addresses of people that have been in car accidents throughout the United States in places that you can legally get them. Now, the laws in every state, this is part of what makes this unique is, most places you go, it doesn't have these weird nuances that make it specific from state to state to state. Because my company runs into laws that are different from state to state to state in marketing to crash victims, that it makes coming into dealing with my company have these different parts to it. Let me elaborate. So every state has different laws with regards to the public records of crash victims. Our people that have been in car accidents in the state of California public record, in the state of Florida public record, in the state of Minnesota public record, in the state of Massachusetts, Tennessee, et cetera, right? So every state has different laws with regards to the public records. So when somebody calls me, I have to find out where they're from, what state are they calling from. So that's the first hoop that we jump through. Now I'll have also people call me that are they're entrepreneurs and they represent different offices in different states. Great. We're still going to come back to this point of like, what do the state laws say for that state that we're going to be dealing with? Now, that's one area. So we have to first talk about the state laws, like where are you calling me from and what are the laws in that area? The next part is what are the marketing and solicitation rules regarding marketing and soliciting to car accident victims in that state, whichever state we're talking about. And this is by the state itself, because the state might have their own rules. By the chiropractic board, that board is, the board for that state, because every state has their own board association and each of those has their own laws. And then the bar association for PI attorneys, and then also any other people we might be helping, like physical therapists, et cetera. So what are the state laws or the laws in that state from those entities with regards to marketing to crash victims?
And as
So
an example, Annie, if I may interject,
yeah,
these
yeah,
laws tell us, just to give our viewers an example, right? It tells us what can you do and what cannot be done, right? Like what is considered prohibited by the law. Like one example would be in some states, you would read the law and you can mail, call, or email a car accident victim, let's just say. But then there's a different law that tells you, hey, you can maybe mail, but any like live contact is prohibited, right? So these laws
right.
allows you to understand what are the rules of the game in your state, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that when you come to me and you're maybe just thinking you're going to get a real quick, easy answer of like, hey, can you help me? It's not so easy because some of these things have parts and pieces to them. Sometimes I don't even know if I'm dealing with a chiropractor who maybe they live in Michigan, but they have offices that they've opened, satellite offices, or they are an owner of different locations. So that's why the dialogue can be a little bit longer than a real quick black and white answer right on the first phone call. It could get into like where we're going to discuss a little bit more about what are the circumstances that you're calling me about. I've had chiropractors that have a business in Texas and they also have another office in Oregon. Those laws are going to be different. So we're going to have a different discussion about each state because the laws in Texas are different laws than they are in Oregon.
Okay, very good. And then what about if we go into more details? Let's say we're talking about Oregon. This is a state that we have read the laws. It's a green state. We call it green because we have green light, right? To, let's say, mail and call car accident victims. Then, chiropractors always ask, are you going to charge me per lead? Is it based on reports? Is it like, how does this work? Like people have all these questions. Am I going to have a set fee? Not like you're going to charge me differently depending on the number of names. Like they have a lot of questions in regards as to how we work and how we service them because they're about to like pull the trigger, but then they're like, what is my next step? And
What's the next step?
how is she going to charge me? How am I going to be paying for this service?
Oh, got
And
it.
all these questions.
Good question. So here's the thing. We have lists of people that have been in car accidents already available. Like you could call me if you're calling me from the Twin Cities, Minnesota. We're going to have a totally different discussion. I'm going to tell you, you might have questions about the laws, at which point I have the laws available that my attorney has researched. So I have those available. So, and then I also have the list of all the crash victims in the Twin Cities area, between 4,000 to 6,000 names and addresses every month on our crash reports, right? So that discussion is going to be that discussion with that guy who's in the Twin Cities area. Now we also know how to tell you how to help you market to the crash victims. We don't do the marketing for you. I did for 8 years myself. That's how I developed this program. I did directly all the marketing. So, but we're going to train you, your staff. And if you don't have a staff, we're going to help you hire a staff member. But we're going to train you on how do you now, once you have this list of people that have been in car accidents, how do you now get them to magically show up into your office? So that we're going to train you on, okay? That has its own fee. The training has its own fee to it, okay, which we can discuss. The list in every area is very different from area to area to area. Why? Because I'm charged from the stations. So, and they're very different from place to place to place to place to place to place. So the list cost in the Twin Cities is going to be very different than Boston, Massachusetts. It's going to be very different than Memphis, Tennessee. It's going to be very different than Portland, Oregon. So there's areas where we already provide the list, which you can get, and then we can help you get set up and then know how to market to them, market by either mailing to them, call to them, how to run the program, what statistics to keep, etc. However, you could call me from somewhere and we don't have the list already for you. So now we have a different discussion that takes place. One, yes, I can talk to you about the laws because my attorney's basically almost researched every state. So we know what the laws are for you. So, but once that hoop is jumped through and we're done on that, and we determine we can do it there, the next thing we do is a service called Research and Establishment, R&E for short. So what we do in this service is we basically find where your office is located. You get your address, and from that location, we draw about a 10-mile radius around that location on the map. And we research all of the police stations, sheriff's department, and highway patrol offices that cover that jurisdiction, that 10-mile radius, they cover it. And we find out who they are, what stations they are, and we then contact them one by one by one by one by one. We contact each of them and find out at the station who is the person to talk to that makes the decisions there. Like, who's the person? Is it the record supervisor? Is it chief of police? Is it the city solicitor, the attorney? Who is it? And in a nutshell, what we're trying to do is we get the stations to agree to provide us crash reports on an ongoing basis. Now, that's not as easy as it sounds. More often than not, they're like, what? You can't do that. That's not public record. They're literally like looking at you like deer in the headlights, going like, why are you asking me for these crash reports? They don't even know that it's public record. And of course, I'm on the phone with them because my attorney's done the research already and I know it's public record. But the staff at the record stations don't know that because it's not commonly something they do. So we have to take them through not having any clue that they can do it, all the way through to getting them to going, agreeing that they're going to now provide us the crash reports to us. That process can take about 6 to 8 weeks on average to complete that process. It can be longer if we already have offices we're working on, because I have very dedicated staff that do that action. And so we kind of put them in a queue, like one office purchases this service and they're the first up, and then the next one is the next one up, next, so in a queue. So my staff are dedicated to the ones they're working on as they work on it. So if somebody pays like today, they're going to go right behind the last ones that are being done, and then they'll come up. So it could lengthen how long it takes us to get it done. Now, why does it take so long in the first place to get done? One, you're dealing with stations that have no clue that you can do it. So you now need to enlighten them that they are able to do it. The attorney then helps us handle that. And this is like a volleyball ping pong match that goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And sometimes it starts at the records supervisor and goes all the way up to the chief of police or the lieutenant, and then it goes all the way up to the city solicitor, etc. So it's a process. So that service is called research and establishment. And once it's completed, we'll know 3 pieces of information. Number one, we're going to know which stations are going to play ball with us, provide us the crash reports. Okay. Now I word it that way because there is a federal law called the DPPA, Drivers Privacy Protection Act. And what that law allows for is the redaction of names and addresses of people that have been in car accidents. So if the station knows about that law and wants to employ that law, they can redact the names and addresses. However, they don't need to do that if they don't want to, because states have the right to determine if they're going to apply a law or not. Okay. So now, so number one, we're going to know which stations are going to give us the crash reports the way we want them. Number two, we're going to know how many names and addresses roughly on any given month are going to be on that crash report. Like in the Twin Cities area, we've got about 4,000 to 6,000 names and addresses of crash victims on our report any month. Portland, Oregon area, about 500 to 600 every month. So every area has a certain amount of yields. And so that's the second thing I'm going to be able to somewhat have kind of an estimate on. Again, it's kind of an estimate because we're brand new into the area, and we're very dependent upon what data we get on the front end, which I would, it's just a rough estimate. And the last piece of information we're going to know is, look, here's how much your monthly list is going to cost you. I don't know. We don't know how much that monthly list is going to cost you until we do this data, because the stations all charge for it. And I get that information when we do the research and establishment step. So the scale that I've seen, because I get asked this question, what's our scale looking at on a monthly range of like crash reports? It just depends. It really, really, really depends. I've seen it as low as $2,500 a month. I've seen it as high as $10,000 a month. It just depends on where you're at, how much it is. Some of those numbers can be capped as well. So, that's that next discussion. But once we're done with the R&E, I have all that information for you. And then what we do is I propose that to you, and then we work together on an initial 6-month agreement. We provide you the crash reports every week, as quick as we get them, which is we get them every week. It covers that last week's crash reports because the stations allow for them to be released weekly. And so, but we work with you on a 6-month agreement, providing you the crash reports. And after that 6-month agreement, we move to an annual agreement with you. Okay. So that's how we work with offices. And then we get you set up to, once I start to know, after we start you on the R&E, once I see that we're able to get traction from the stations and we're able to get reports coming in from them, once I see that and I know it and can depend on it, then what I do is we'll turn around to you and contact you and get you paid for your training at that point, because we now know that you're able to get some worth out of these crash reports. So we get you set up on your training, and then we get your staff, your office trained. Mariani actually is the person who trains you guys. So we get you set up on the training. And then ideally this whole action dovetails, meaning your training is completed at the same time as the crash reports and the R&E is done. Our research and establishment is completed, so that right when that's done and your training's done, research and establishment is done, we're ready to just go boom, pull the plug, and start you on, here's your crash reports every month, or, you're getting them every week, but this is what we're doing, we're giving to you. And that's when the initial 6 months starts. And your person that's trained on this is ready to market right away. So there's no downtime.
Very good.
Sure.
And how long can we expect, as soon as the research and establishment is done, to get some traction going? Is there some kind of delay or lag, since you're saying that, police stations are not used to this? If I'm buying, right, like an area of crash reports that you've never been in, is there like a lag there? Anything that you can tell me?
Oh, yeah. If you start with us, so great. Let's say you start. You're like, okay, great. Let's get started. We've done the research and establishment step. That's out of the way. And we're ready to start. And you're ready to like, here, I want to get the crash reports now every month. Good. Or, it's every week. I have to say that because people keep thinking it comes at once a month. No, it comes every week. But you're ready to get them. Good. Now, the next step is to know on the first month, maybe month and a half. Sometimes I've seen it even lag into 3, but usually it's good on the into the second month. First month for sure, there's a little bit of slowness. Why? Which we account for. We account for it internally and we're so used to it. But why is it slow? Because the stations, none of them are used to doing this. None of them are. So we have to, and they don't want to do it. They're not like all excited to get that. Why? They already overworked and underpaid. Most stations, everybody I've talked to in the 25 years never feels like they have enough staff and never feels like they have enough pay. So we're now giving them something extra to do that they really don't want to do. Okay. So we have to diplomatically kind of move them along through this process and get them willing to work with us and willing and, so my staff, we really, we know how to do this, but it can take that first month can be a little bit like, moves forwards and it stalls and it moves forward and stalls, but it is accounted for and we're handling that. But just realize your first month in, you can have a little bit, it's just going to be a slower process. Second month starts to pick up speed. Third month, we've got the, basically this is how I look at it, is we've got the staff inside the office trained by the third month. Like they're trained and they're doing it. And a lot of times we'll start with a station on a certain agreement with them. And it's not what I want as an agreement. Like they're doing something I don't want them to do. Like, let's say they want to snail mail the mailings to us rather than send it on email. Right? We'll start because that's what they say they're going to do. That's the only way they release it. But with the intention with my company, what we do and what we always know we're going to do is we'll start them that way, but be building rapport and relationships and using PR with them, we actually get them over little by little by little to start to agree to provide them the way we want them. I mean, are we 100% successful? No, but we are always doing it. So that's a little bit of how we operate and how we tactfully and diplomatically and work with the stations, and why my company, why working with us, we know what we're doing, dealing with stations, right? We also have my attorney that helps us if we need to.
A lot of chiropractors ask us, can I have the list in a certain way? Can I just get the at fault party or the victim or the this or the that? And they want us to sort and sift through the car accident list. But how does prospect providers actually provide the list? What's in the list so that our viewers actually understand what we're providing?
When we get the reports from the stations, they're sent in a PDF format. Now that PDF format, or we get them uploaded or we get them on the web, whatever, we get them in different ways, right? Or pay for them in different ways. And they're provided to us in different ways. So a lot of times we'll get a PDF, which is the actual report, full report of the crash. Now, more often than not, I know that PI attorneys want the actual narrative reports, which is understandable, right? With PI attorneys, we've been known to be able to deal with and help PI attorneys. And obviously the fee's a lot higher because we're required to do quite a bit more to provide a more tailor-made report for the attorneys. More often than not, the way our reports come is they're literally, we get the PDF in from the station that day. Like, let's take Minneapolis. Okay, today's Friday. Let's just pretend Minneapolis comes out on Friday. We get the PDF from them, and my staff member will email that to you, the PDF directly we get it. But we also type up all the names and addresses of all the crash victims, driver, both drivers, passengers, etc. All are on there with the names, addresses, and phone numbers. We don't, as a habit, break them down. We don't, as a habit, go unit 1, unit 2. We don't dissect the reports for you. We've only done that in certain circumstances, but there's a definite fee change for that because it requires quite a bit more work for us. It can be done, but again, we pick and choose how we do that. Most cases, most people don't need it that way.
Okay, good. And then what about explaining to our viewers that not only do we not dissect the list like that, but what is it that we provide? We always talk about in our training that we provide personal injury leads and property damage leads. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So there's two types of reports that I request when I deal with a station. It's called a personal injury report and a property damage report. What's the difference? At the scene of the accident, if Mariani and I get in an accident together right now, if neither one of us tells the police officer, oh, I hurt my back, I hurt my neck, I'm hurt. If neither one of us says anything about that, it's now labeled a property damage report. That's the label of it. If one of us or the passenger or somebody in that accident says to the officer, even one person says, I hurt something, I hurt myself, it's called a personal injury report. Now, why do I collect the property damage reports as well? Well, because Mariani and I get in an accident right now. I wake up the next day and I'm like, oh my God. Oh, right. Now we all know that I'm a legit PI case at this point. Like I literally am now considered somebody who can take advantage of using my insurance for health benefits on this. Okay. Based on whatever state you're in and your laws on that. Okay. I'm not going to get into that in this thing because that's not my thing. But so that's why I also collect the property damage reports is because there's people that are legit PI cases that are called property damage reports. Now, on those property damage reports, because it's a umbrella category, you're going to also have different things in there. Like I drove into your fence last night, buddy, right? That's now on your property damage, right? So my house had its fence drove into, and my house, I'm going to file a complaint. Now my name, Annie Brown, my house was wrecked. I just had property damage. That's also on there. So do you end up with, and we don't, because we deal with so many reports, like an obnoxious amount of reports, I just don't have the staff set up that they're going to read every report. Not only do we have that data, not every report we get is a narrative. So we don't always have the ability from the stations on how we get the crash reports. They don't, not every station provides an entire crash report so that we can see what is it. Sometimes it's just a list of names that they've delivered to us. Okay. So as a marketing person, my viewpoint is market. Market. Here's what you know. You know that you got a name and an address and a phone number of somebody whose name and address and phone number was somehow involved in some sort of incident. And I would rather, and this is, I even worked with, the chiropractor I worked with had the best attitude, and I had the same attitude I did in marketing, which is I'd rather spend the 70 some cent stamp and take the chance that you're going to end up with a good PI case there than not. I'd rather take the chance and market to those people. And I also operate from a certain maxim, MAXIM. It's a principle. So like a principle based on a basic truth. I operate on this idea in marketing that you are using a shotgun approach at marketing. You want to constantly market and market and market and market and market. You're not going to like fine tune and start reading who am I not going to mail to? Who am I not going to mail to? Who am I not going to mail to? That's the wrong attitude on the front part of marketing. So anyways, that's the difference between the property damage and the personal injury reports as such. Here's another piece of interesting information. Statistically, people that get into car accidents once statistically continue to get into car accidents. It is a certain public, and they typically get into more often than not more than one car accident. So the mere fact that you are chronically marketing to this group of people is a good thing. When I was marketing, I was mailing to the crash victim on the list. They were getting they were getting three mailings from me about a week apart. So they'd get one mailing, the first one, I'd give them a second one, and then I waited a week and did a third. And you're mailing. And there's nothing saying that you couldn't mail to them after that time, even once a month, and just start having them, including them on a mailing list for you. Since you know that statistic and you've got their name and address there, you may as well just include them in on some sort of a mailing thing that you can do, even if after a while it's a postcard mailing, you're still reaching out to that public. Here's a key principle. The biggest, and this is a question I get I usually have some astute chiros ask me this. Where does this program, or when does this program not work? The answer is when somebody violates or does not do parts or pieces of this program. They change it or alter it. Like, I have a chiropractor I've had for many years. I've had her 7, 8 years, 9 years, something. I've had her as a client. And I told her, she called me back and she said, things are a little slow right now, blah, 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 blah. And I said, can you send me a piece, like put my name on the list, like I'm a car accident victim, so I could see what it is you're sending out? Lo and behold, I got this thing and I was like, come on, are you kidding me? You've completely altered what's being sent out in the mail. Why are you even asking me the question? Why isn't this working? You've altered the main piece I trained you on. I had to resend her. I mean, now maybe it's just who knows, and she had staff that changed it, and then the outside of the envelope was scribbled and the inside of the name. I mean, there was so many things about this. I was like, I wrote her this email that was like, and then this point, and then this point, and then this, right? So ultimately, when this program doesn't work, it's because some piece of it has been violated, meaning not done the standard way, gone against what the actual way to do it is. So it's a standard thing that works. It's a science. The mailing, the marketing, how you do this is a science. If you're doing it and you're doing it the right way, which includes who do you have running the program, you should get great results. Now, to answer this question of like, what kind of results can we expect? For example, when I first started in the Twin Cities, when I was directly doing the mailings, and we could, back in the day, this is 2000, year 2000, so down 25 years ago. Are we 24 years ago? We're almost 25. Back in the day, we were able to mail and call crash victims back then legally. Okay. So for 8 years when I ran the program, mail and call. Back then, average into the office was anywhere from like no less than 12 to 13 PIs that started to care every month back in the day when you could totally do that. Now, after that law got changed, let's say in the Twin Cities, where they can only mail the crash victims, they get about 5 to 6 on average, every month that start care. Maybe one month it's 8 PIs that start care. Maybe the next it's 3. Maybe the next month it's 6. Maybe the next month it's 7. Maybe the next month 0. That's how this goes. It's all over the board. That's one of the reasons why we have an initial 6-month agreement. In fact, that's the main reason, is because I've seen this fluctuate over time, where in 1 month it'll be this, the next month it's this. So if you judge it based on 1 month or 2 months, you're literally doing a disservice. And if you judge it based on the months you're just starting, right? You're just starting something. It's like you don't even see the change of the program, the wealth, the main power of that program can't even be correctly viewed in its true light in the first or second months. You need to get this in and work it as a thing so that it's in like a duk, 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 going like that. Then you see it. That's why there's an initial 6-month agreement, because I'm not stupid. Because I saw when people would start, they would like have their heads, up the butt, and they wouldn't know what they were doing, and they were trying to figure this out, and their staff wouldn't know, and then they're trying to then evaluate this program based on that, inefficiencies and incompetences, and they're trying to evaluate the program on that, and I'm like, yeah, no, you're not going to evaluate the program on that. you're going to evaluate the program over a duration of time, and then you're going to revisit and look at it, right? So that's why that initial 6 month is there. And then these are some of the results you can expect. If you're running the program and you're doing it standardly and you're doing this program without altering it, absolutely, you should be getting, I mean, it's hard to give you this number because every area yields a different amount that you're going to market to. So that's a hard answer to give you, but the stats in the Twin Cities are a pretty relevant proportion of what to view it from.
Okay, good. And what is that amount of that you can get in the Twin Cities that it's like an average that we've seen?
Well, yeah, like I said, in the Twin Cities, like if you're, that area right now, you're going to get about 12 to 1,400 names and addresses of crash victims every week on our crash report. Okay. And so if you're running this program standardly, you should get no less than 5 to 6 PIs that start care every month on average. Okay. So, but again, those numbers with regards to the amount of 12 to 14 is not, you can't use apples and apples to compare. Why? Because I've had a chiropractor in the middle of Nowhereville, Idaho on his first month where he had, I think if he was lucky, I don't remember the exact number, Mariani, but it was maybe like, was he lucky?
He was just getting 200 names a month.
200 a month. That's like nothing. But he was mailing and calling them. He also could call. And I think his first month he got 7 that started care or something. Was that it?
He got
5.
5. Which is
So
what you can see in Twin Cities just with mailers. Now imagine his numbers were way less and he still pulled off 500 PIs that started.
right. Exactly. So it's hard to give you a black and white, like how does this and what's this and da da da. But I can give you, here are some numbers for you on how this could go, right? But the main key thing is who's running your program, which we train you on. We have a guy right now who has, I think he's got about 4 or 5 extra staff in his office. And I said to him, when he called me, I said, can any of those people do, are they good enough to do calls? Are they an outgoing person? I call them like a green light personality or an optimistic person. It's got to be a woman or a girl that does this. And he's like, absolutely not. And I said, good. So we are helping him hire a staff member. Mariani actually does that. But, that's what we're doing with this guy. He's aware of the fact that whoever he's got right now is not going to pull it off. And I would rather you not start than start with somebody that you don't feel confident in. Or if you start with them, get them quickly replaced and we can help you do that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would add to what you said earlier, Annie. You said to the viewers that you've been asked many times what makes this program not work. And you mentioned that is altering the pieces of the mailing, altering steps of the program. I would actually say, now that I've been with you for so long, that there's 2 reasons.
Okay.
One is altering the exact step-by-step recipe, let's call it like a recipe or formula. And 2, having the wrong person. And an example is you can have somebody, let's say me, doing every step exactly to the T. Like I'm following everything that Annie gave me in her training. But then I'm a person that I'm afraid of calling people, or I'm afraid that I'm going to be yelled at on the phone because, that person was involved in a car accident and maybe they don't want to be called. It could be many different scenarios. Maybe I'm just getting into the chiropractor's ear and saying, no, why do I need to do this? I don't want to be calling people. And why are we mailing people? We are ambulance chasers. What is this? What is that? Blah, 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 blah. If the person who's running the program has that attitude and that mindset, then definitely that's going to kill the program, right?
Yeah.
So that I've seen time after time after time. It doesn't matter how beautifully perfect you're implementing the formula. If you have no willingness to help people, call people, do marketing, work a lead generation line, and then on top of that, you're just worrying your own boss and business owner of like, no, this is not good. We're ambulance chasers. What are people going to say about us? Then definitely do not even do any lead generation line, because you have to be willing to deal with your public, with your audience in your community. And they're going to come in all shapes, colors, and forms, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Totally. Absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would say that you definitely, as a business owner, if you want to run a marketing line, make sure that you follow the steps correctly and to have the right person running it. I've seen too many times chiropractors fail and feel like, why did I fail? Why didn't this work? And I've warned them for weeks and weeks and weeks. The staff member we trained was the wrong staff member. Why?
Right.
Because she's constantly showing it in the way she writes emails, in the
Yes.
way she's always putting barriers and problems and not solutions,
Yeah.
right? And the way the person is constantly complaining or finding faults or flaws in the program. When you have a being that is constantly looking for problems, definitely you don't want that person in your income production activities. Anybody that is directly linked to your income production activities, you need to have somebody that it's really, like Amy says, a green light personality, wants to help, wants to talk to people, wants to help you grow, wants to help you make more money so that you can make more money, even to pay her more. You know what I mean? It's got to be a win-win situation. So as a business owner, you have to think with that. Not every staff member can pull off producing money or generating leads.
Right.
Very
Perfect.
awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's such a key thing of who you have around you. Very key. So, and on this program, and I would say it's 85% of this.
Yes. And we
It's
also
so
have a separate
significant.
video where Annie talks specifically about staff and we give more examples about it. So go ahead and watch that video as well. I'll probably leave like a little link note under this video on our YouTube channel so that you can go and watch that video as well. If you have problems with, getting your team on board because they feel like they're going to be viewed as an ambulance chaser and things like that, we also recorded another video where we talk about the ambulance chasing concept and what to do about it, how to deal with it as a business owner, and what's the mindset that your staff should have. So
That's
I
right.
think we have those three videos. This one that explains our services and how we provide our services, the one about ambulance chasing and really understanding that what you're doing is helping your community, and three, what to look in staff member so that you actually grow rather than contract or keep your office or business on low profile. No business should be low profile. Every business should expand and communicate to the community, right?
Right.
Okay, good. So I
Right.
think we got
Perfect.
all
I
the
love it.
data. Thank you, Annie, so much. And I'll see
Yeah,
you
you're
in the next
welcome.
video.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, hon.